Here's Dan Shapiro to help you find your edge, master your process, and own your future.
Hey guys, good evening everybody. Welcome to another edition of the AccessToTrader.com weekend update show. Hope everybody is doing well, living your best life, happy, healthy, and everything we do is hopefully just a cherry on top. All I ask guys, if you like what we're doing, take a second out, support the channel, and click like. Again, I really appreciate you guys taking a few minutes out of your day to tune in. So again, market is go higher, right? I mean, we just continuously go higher. We're melting up. You got the quantum stocks going crazy. You got technology resting and then go higher, resting and then go higher, and a lot of rotation. We saw our first rate cut in a very, very long time, with more potential rate cuts, another two potential rate cuts towards the end of the year. And the market's just, again, like my mom says, no news is good news. It's very hard to sit here every single day and try to think of creative things to say. It's just all about the setups. The key is, like in every single aspect of a very good traditional bull market, we've been in a very, very aggressive market since the April lows. The key is not to chase the stocks that are in orbit. The stocks that, there's only one breakout of the stock. There's only one continuation of the stock, and everything else you're pretty much chasing. So, for example, a stock like Pony, right? Let's use Pony as an example, right? This AI stock that we started talking about a couple of weeks ago and needed to come out of the $17 range, right? Came out of the $17 range. Although the stock is about to challenge all-time highs, it's a much harder trade up here than it was down here. OKLO, that's been going, completely out of its mind. Again, guys, we started talking about OKLO last week above 81. The stock is $135. Again, the value is here. The continuation is here. Up here, you're really, really playing with fire. So there's a lot of really good setups. I'll share some setups with you guys in a few moments. But again, I know a lot of you guys are still brand new traders, 1, 2, 3 years. And you feel like you're going to miss the trade. You're not going to miss the trade. All you're doing is chasing past performance. And the higher a stock goes, the higher probability you will be put in a situation that you are facing a potential very, very aggressive pullback. So you don't want to do that. You want to leave the stocks that have gone 2, 3, 4 days away from the pivot, away from the continuation. Just kind of let them play themselves out and wait for a dip into rising support. We talk about that all the time. So I'll give you guys some ideas that I do like, but here's kind of my point, right? So I talked about BKSY, right? If you watched Thursday's video, we talked about BKSY. Why is BKSY kind of a nice transition to everything I just said? Is because BKSY finally is coming out of a range. If you go back to Thursday's video, I even gave you guys the price. I said, listen, this thing needs to get above 20. This thing went to 21.65, right? So the trade was 20, right? The entry was 20. It wasn't 20 and a half, wasn't 21, it wasn't 21 and a half. And even though the stock looks higher, again, the further a stock goes away from its pivot, the higher probability it will backtest. So again, here's something I always just try to drive the point home. If you miss an entry and you miss the continuation, and yes, you can turn around and go, well, Dan, the stock just broke out. Why can't this thing go to 29, right? The highs from July. Of course it can. Absolutely can. My point is, entries do matter, right? And if you are chasing past performance, you are putting yourself out for exposure. That's all I'm saying. So of course, a stock can go high. That's the whole point of a stock breaking out. But entries do matter. And the closer you are to the natural pivot, the higher probability your safety zone is still intact. So I'll give you another example, right? PLTR broke out. Right? Broke out on Thursday, right? It broke out above 72. Now the stock's at 82. Can the stock go back to the August highs of 90? Absolutely. And that's when they're building. That's where they're betting for the stock. And this, we saw 190 calls come in. We saw $200 calls come in. But again, most important, folks, do not chase the performance of the stock. It's something that the more and more I say it, it'll finally go into your DNA and it'll finally go into your mental Rolodex and say, well, wait a minute, the stock broke out 10 points ago. Should I put my first entry in the stock 2-3 days after the stock broke out. So again, be very, very careful. Other than that, we got some really good value in the last couple of days. Again, PLTR was an absolute monster. The thing gets above 190. This thing is a slam, well, I don't know, or slam dunk. But in this type of environment, there is going to be a high probability that if it takes out the 190 level, which are the August highs, there is a chance we go to 215, right? It's a really, really strong, aggressive setup here. Look at stocks like Tesla, right? And again, here's my, here's my, wants and hopes for Tesla, right? Like I said on Thursday's video, I would like to see the stock rest. And then it dawned to me, maybe the stock is resting. The new resting for Tesla is up $9, right? And that, ironically, I know that sounds really, really funny, but you can see Tesla's now in a weird way going sideways for the last 5 days. The longer it goes sideways, folks, the higher probability the next move will be another 10, 15, 20 points. So the longer it stays sideways, the better. However, keep this in mind because, again, stocks do trade on both sides. As long as it stays above the 5 days, you can see here the last 2 days, it's now touched the 5-day moving average and bounced. So it's very, very important. It needs to stay above the 5-day because if it doesn't stay above the 5-day, it will retest back to the 10-day moving average. It won't be a big deal, 397, 390, considering we caught this move from the 360 level, 355, 360 level, but it is something to really think about it. But yes, the longer it stays sideways, the better the trade will be this week. I'm hoping it wakes up somewhere around Wednesday into Thursday so we can have an aggressive overnight Wednesday into Thursday and Thursday into Friday. The key with Tesla, just like the first time it came out of this May channel, was the aggressive option flow. Yes, we're still seeing some really good, healthy bets coming in on Tesla, but we want to see them start ramping them up. That's what really got the stock into parabolic mode. They started ramping up the frequencies. We want to see this week 450, 460, 470 weeklies. That's what we want to see this week because the more they start pounding on or piling on, the higher probability that it will work. Let's talk about Apple. Apple had a really, really big breakout on Friday. It took out the channel from September, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's a 2-week channel. They were coming for next week, the 250 weeklies, and the following week, 260 weeklies. So again, massive value. You can look at the volume here. You got a massive expansion channel on Apple. Again, one of the rotation names that came into the stock. NVIDIA was a little disappointing on Friday. If you guys remember on Thursday's video, I said it needs to build upon the channel. It didn't quite get there, right? It didn't quite get there. If you look at the top of the channel on September 16th and the top of the channel on Friday, it basically got rejected off the same area. Although the stock didn't disappoint, but it didn't advance. However, having said that, it did put in a nice 3-day move to end the week. I definitely want to keep this thing above. I want to keep an eye on this thing above the September 16th channel, only because they're starting to come in for the 180 and the 185 short-term expiration. This is definitely something I continuously, I definitely continually want to watch. Guys, watch this little stock NVTS. I nicknamed this thing the baby NVIDIA. I think NVIDIA has something to do with I think they own a piece or invested a piece. Guys, first close above the 50-day moving average. If you've been watching this channel, you kind of know above the 50-day good, below the 50-day bad. This is the first close above the 50-day moving average. A buyer came in the afternoon at the money, bought 5,000 of the November $7 calls. That's literally where it closed. So he bought at the money calls for a pretty decent amount of premium. Keep an eye on this thing this week. If this thing starts building over Friday's channel, you could see it move into the 770s. And if more option buyers come in, you could see the July highs of 950 come into play. Some other names, right? Some other names we should definitely watch going into this week. If you guys remember on Thursday's video, I said, guys, keep an eye on Circle. Remember, 2 orders came in on Thursday for this up and coming week's expiration for the 926-150 calls. If this thing, I'm telling you folks, if this thing gets back above, right? If this thing gets back above this 50 EMA, there's a shot this thing goes to 156, 157 because that is the 50-day SMA. So definitely a name you want to watch. Let me give you guys some other speculative plays that look really, really good. TEM, not the easiest, right? Not the easiest stock to trade. This is one of those stocks you got to let it break out and only buy it into dips. It's very tough to buy it into strength, but you can see this flag that's building. It's 2 weeks out. I saw some short expiration coming in for the 105 and 100 calls. SOUN, pretty chart, really, really pretty chart. Keep an eye on this thing above the August highs. Look at NEGG. Right? NEGG. The reason why I'm bringing this up, first of all, NEGG had a ridiculous run from 12 to 140, right, in August. The reason why I bring it up, you see how it got rejected off the 50-day moving average on Friday? Folks, watch this thing, right? Watch this thing. This thing reclaims back the 50-day moving average this week, man. You know, from just by its recent history, man, this thing has potential wheels. So definitely keep an eye on that. Joby, right? Joby, this thing definitely has tendencies of running. It got back above the 50-day moving average, stopped at the linear regression line. Watch this thing if they start coming in for option flow and see if this thing can start building back into the top of the channel. And last but not least, watch Microsoft. Microsoft has been really, really sideways now since August. This is a long distribution. This is now the highest close in this whole formation. And look at the volume bar, guys. Look at the volume bar, the expansion volume bar. I want to watch this thing. If this thing can confirm Friday's prices, this thing might wake up. It's time, right? It hasn't done anything in a very, very long time. So again, market continues to be good. Don't continue chasing these high flyers. Wait for these stocks to come back. If you miss an entry, wait for the dip on these things, because again, the further a stock goes away from its natural pivot, the higher probability you will get pulled. And again, awesome markets are awesome until they're not, and you're sitting there holding the bag. Guys, God bless everybody. If you're interested in pivots and you're coming aboard this week, I look forward to seeing you, look forward to working with you, and I think you will like the wonderful world of pivots. Have a great week, everybody. I will see you on Monday.